What's up, everybody? CHM Carnivorous here. I hope you're having a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Now, I'm very excited about today's video. In today's video, I'm going to show you what to do when you get a brand new plant from one of these growers that have wildly different conditions that you have at your home. I'm going to show you what you need to do and the tools and tips that you'll need to ensure success for these plants when you're transitioning them from their grower's environment to yours. But before we get into that, if you would please do me a favor and like and subscribe to this channel and share this content with as many people as you can. For those who are subscribers already, thank you so much for your ongoing support. I very much appreciate it. And our attempt to get the word out to as many people as possible about the amazing carnivorous plant world, specifically Nepenthes, Drosera, and just get as many people collecting them as we can. That way we can just get these their numbers up, push them further away from extinction, and really just bring enjoyment to a lot of people. But without further ado, let's get into the video. See you in a minute. So as carnivorous plants, specifically Nepenthes, become more and more popular, growers are having to turn them out faster and faster. So what that means is you will typically get a smaller plant, an extra small or even a seedling size up to a small. Now you can pay higher prices and get some of the larger ones, but these growers are putting out these mass-produced quantities of them, and so that means that they're waiting to just the right moment when they are ready to be transferred and able to be sold, and then selling them to you. So what that means though for you as the buyer, as these plants are not nearly as strong and as hardy as they would be if they're larger, but have no fear, I'm going to show you just now what to do with those smaller plants before we get into the other things to ensure success with those. Primarily, the plants that you're going to get are going to be small. So this is probably the most important tip if you are a new grower and you're buying on one of these sites and you want to buy on a budget like I like to do here on this channel, about $100 a month or less. I'm going to show you how you can ensure success with those smaller plants. So I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to show you what that looks like just now. So when you are buying plants, this one specifically came from Carnivorous, and I've actually had this one in my care for quite some time, but it's like one of those forever small plants. This is a Nepenthes astutia by spatulata by Jacquelinier. But this is pretty good size, right? So you will get, and this is probably considered as small, but when these came in, they were probably half to a quarter this size. And so it was very important right out the bat to ensure success. Now, how you're going to do that is you're going to first bag acclimate. So that's the first thing you're going to need. And I'm going to show you these tools in just a minute. You're also going to want to make sure that you have a good media. This media is a little bit old and needs to be changed out. It's been in here for probably 6 months or so, maybe even longer than that. But you're going to want to get yourself a good media, and you're going to want to prep the media as long as it gets you a pot. So I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm going to show you what that looks like, and yeah, be right back with you. All right, so I don't have a whole lot of room in here. This grow tent is getting large, so I'm going to have to hold these things. I don't have room for a table, but you'll get the gist of it. The first thing you want to do when you get your new plant, most of the times it will be considered bare root. Now what that means is it'll have a root ball, but it will have a little bit of sphagnum moss wrapped around that, and you want to keep that plug on. That's very important. Some people like to move them away when they're that small. I do not recommend that. Nepenthes roots are extremely fine, especially when they're small like that, and you will very much risk damaging the plant or breaking off the roots, which is very, very detrimental to the plant. So leave the root ball on. Now what you're going to want to do is unwrap the saran wrap from the root ball, and you're going to want to place that new plant into a freshly potted, freshly mixed sphagnum moss and perlite. Now the one I use is this right here. I think it's $5 at Lowe's. You certainly can get a higher grade sphagnum moss, like a New Zealand sphagnum moss. It is going to cost you considerably more, and the supply is a lot less. This you can get at a big box store. What I do recommend though with this is that you wet it and then you microwave it for 1 minute, and that will kill any of the bugs, bacteria, anything like that that's in it. Don't microwave it any longer than that. If you do that, you run the risk of it degrading the sphagnum moss, and you won't notice at first, but once you plant it, over time it will start breaking down very fast, and you'll lose that airflow on the roots, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So I get this at Lowe's. It's $5, $5.50 or something like that. Very reasonably priced, and this stuff goes a long ways once it's wet. Now the other thing I like to do is use an organic perlite. Very important when you're doing your mixes, you want to do about a 50-50 mix. And the reason for that is to provide airflow around the roots. Nepenthes love airflow on the roots, and they are susceptible to root rot if they are too wet and don't have that airflow. Now, the important thing to remember when you're buying a perlite is to ensure that it is organic and make sure that there is no fertilizers or added nutrients to it. Nepenthes do not want any added nutrients into their soil. Doing so, you run a very high risk, almost a certainty of killing the plant. Again, 50-50. Now, important thing to note, when you're mixing the perlite, do it outdoors. This stuff has a lot of dust that comes off of it. It's very harmful to breathe in, and if you have ever breathed it in, it's not fun. So make sure you do that outdoors and go ahead and wet it down. Again, 50-50, mix it in there really well, and then you want to get yourself a good pot. Now, I'm going to use this one as the example because this is just the one I've had it in. You can certainly do smaller ones than this. When it comes to a smaller plant, a tighter mix is better. What do I mean by that? So what you're going to want to do is take the new plant in the root ball and then slowly wrap that sphagnum moss perlite mix that you've made around it, and then you want to make sure that you push it into the pot where it feels tight. Now, the larger plants, you can have it a little bit more airy and a little loose, and that's totally fine. But with the new ones, you want to have it tight to make sure that you lock in that moisture, not dampness. Now, I'm not talking about soaked, but lock in that moisture around the roots. As the plant continues to grow, you can put it in bigger pots and have it more of a loose mix. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is bag acclimation. So it's as simple as what it sounds. You get your Ziploc bag. Here I've got a 1 gallon bag, and most of the places you buy from, especially Carnivorous, are going to have almost 100% humidity. And even in a grow tent like this, I'm only getting maybe 80% humidity at the highest. And so you want to make sure that you give your plants a fighting chance to get acclimated to your temperatures. I'm going to turn the camera around now and show you what that looks like and go through some of the steps to bag acclimation. Bag acclimation is as simple as it sounds. You're going to put the pot in the bag. Here I've got it open, but when you first start, for the first day or so, you're going to want to keep it closed, and that will ensure that you have 100% of that humidity locked in. Now, as the days progress, I'd say probably the second day you can open it about 10%, third day about 25%, and so on and so forth. Over about a week and up to 2 weeks, depending on how dry your conditions are, you're going to want to open that bag. And what that will do is that will slowly allow your plant to adjust to the humidity around it so it's not in shock. When these plants arrive, most of them, depending on where you are in the world, will arrive to you between 2-3 business days and up to two weeks. So they're spending a lot of time in the dark, and they're spending a lot of time without humidity, and they are light loving, humid loving plants, and so you want to be able to give it the best shot. So this bag acclimation process will do that and help ensure success. Now, don't be discouraged if you lose some pitchers. The first thing that these plants will do is a stress mechanism is start dropping those pitchers, and so that is perfectly common. It doesn't always happen, but one thing that you can do is add a little bit of water, not too much, a little bit of water to the pitchers once you first receive them, and that will help ensure that you keep your pitchers. But fear not, they will pitcher again, and so you want to ensure that you have that. Now, if you want to go larger, like a cutting, so some of these larger ones I've gotten, now certainly these have grown bigger since I've got them, but you can purchase them large like this, or even cuttings like this. You can bag acclimate them. I would still recommend doing so, but it isn't always necessary to do that. The cuttings and the larger plants have the added bonus of being around for a while, and they have gotten hardy and used to their environment, and so they can withstand a lot more of a humidity change. Now, if you're growing your plants indoors, I do recommend that you do bag acclimate still, because that is going to probably put your humidity about 40 to 50%, which is significantly lower than they're used to growing in, and so you want to ensure success. Now, when you're doing cuttings, you're going to get your plants that come in bare root. Again, it's going to be wrapped in a much larger ball of sphagnum moss. With the larger ones, though, it's more of a loose mix. It's still 50-50 perlite to sphagnum moss, but you want to make sure that you give it a little bit of a loose mix, so that way it has a chance to move around and spread its feet out in the pot. Now, what I mean by loose mix is, instead of with the smaller ones packing that media in real tight, you're gonna, it doesn't have to be too loose, but you're gonna wanna make sure that you just sort of pack it in there where it has room to move around, and that will allow the roots to spread through the moss. One thing to note when you're getting your plants is there's a difference between a tissue culture and a seed grown plant. Seed grown plants will always be more hardy. They are more sought after, but they're also a little bit more expensive. Now, seed grown means exactly what it sounds. Nature has done its work. They have germinated and they have grown their plants from seeds, which provides them a lot stronger of a group. Now, with a tissue culture, they're literally taking tissue cultures from a parent plant and then growing them in a lab. Now, what that means is those plants are not going to be as hardy, and they are going to be a duplicate carbon copy of the parent plant. Now, with tissue cultures, the biggest thing that you want to worry about is called hardening off. And what a good, reputable grower will do is wait till they get to a certain size, and then they will slowly start to acclimate them out of the lab environment into a natural environment. And that will harden off the plant and help them get used to the humidity drops, help them to get used to the environment around them. However, I recommend specifically if you have tissue culture plants that you do bag acclimate your plants. And that is because while we want to assume the best intentions for our growers, it's not always the case, and we want to do whatever we can to ensure success for you. So I do recommend that you do that if you get a tissue culture. Seedlings as well, but specifically tissue cultures, I would do that. Sometimes you get the ability to buy seedlings, and so that is super, super exciting. What I recommend when you buy seedlings is, well, first of all, come with the understanding that not all seedlings are going to survive. In the life of a Nepenthes, these are when they are the most susceptible to disease, fungus gnats, and all of the above humidity drops. So come with the understanding that there is a good chance that a lot of them aren't going to survive. Now, for the ones that do survive, there's a way that you can make this more of a, you can hedge your bets a little bit. And what I recommend is these little seedling trays. Now, these things are fantastic. And what I do is I don't do a mix here. I do 100% sphagnum moss, and I mill the top of it. So I cut it real fine and put it on the top. And then you get this little tray that's got humidity here that I can slowly open, similar to a bag acclimation, but I can slowly open and allow humidity to acclimate to the environment. Now, these things are fantastic. What I do recommend is, you can see how they get sort of foggy on the top, is every so often clean that off so that the light can penetrate through and get the most light to those plants. If they do start to turn yellow, it looks like maybe this one, it's a little hard to see, but this one's starting to turn a little yellow. You can do a very diluted foliar feeding, but I mean, be very trepidatious with how you apply that foliar feed. You don't want to overdo it, and you want to try to keep it off of the media so that it does not produce any mold around your plant. But for the most part, you don't need to feed these plants. They will eat any of the fungus larvae, like these right here, the fungus gnats will get in there and they will be able to eat on them and just be just as happy as they can be. So I will leave you with this. When it comes to growing these plants, they have done a really good job as the industry with growers to ensure that these plants will be able to come to you and survive. If you happen to get a plant that looks very sick, do not hesitate to reach out to the grower. A reputable grower, well, they won't take the plant back because they don't want to bring any diseases to their stock. They should provide you a new plant in exchange. I've had that happen a couple times, but very rare. Now, the other thing is, be patient with these plants, right? Nepenthes tend to be very slow growing at first, but as they get to about, I would say, I don't know, adolescence, if you will, they will start to pick up speed and grow very fast. So it's important that you understand this is a long game. It's going to take time for them to grow, specifically when they're coming to you little and small and new. It will take them time to get to their environment. And if you have a cutting, also understand that the larger the plant is, the higher your chances of success be able to move them, but they do sulk. Nepenthes like to be creatures of habit. They like their environment, and when that's changed, they will go into a little state of shock, and they may not picture for you for a while, but that's okay. Continue to care for them just as the same, and they will bear fruit for you and put out those big, beautiful pictures. One more thing as a bonus, and then I will close out the video, is feeding your brand new Nepenthes. Now, I would not feed them right away. I would give them about maybe 2 to 3 weeks, even a month worth of time before you feed them. Feeding is something that Nepenthes love, but it also can put them through a little state of shock. Now, if you do feed them, you can, if you have a newer plant, what I would do is start off with something more natural, like a dried insect or even a live insect. And then you can move to something like an Osmocote pellet once it starts getting a little larger and once it's been established in your grow tent. So traditionally, depending on how strong the plant is, you can do it as little as 2 to 2.5, 3 weeks, and as long as a month. And one thing I forgot, this is like a bonus to a bonus, when you're back acclimating, a lot of fears are, and you hear a lot of growers like me talking about airflow. So the fear is if they're back acclimated, they won't get any airflow. And so that is a fear to have. However, let me go ahead and put away those fears for you. During the back acclimation process, they're not going to necessarily need that much airflow. Now, the short amount of time that you're acclimating them, week, 2 weeks, they will be completely fine without that airflow. It's more of a long-term game for the airflow for Nepenthes, and long-term, if they don't get that, then that's when they start developing problems like stem rot and mold growing on the surface and things like that. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And again, buying Nepenthes, buying any kind of carnivorous plants can be such a fun experience, but it can also come with a lot of fear and anxiety because you've got this brand new plant and you want to see it grow, and they almost have a personality of their own. But rest assured, if you follow these steps, your chances of success are very high. And as always, if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me either via Instagram or in a comment. I am always here to support you. I am always here as a resource. As always, I hope you have a wonderful week and a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your ongoing support. Have a great day.